This
meeting is being recorded.
So, warm welcome to all of you. The title I've been given is this: Writing a Generosity and Thankfulness Strategy or a Mission Action Plan for Your Church. I am not going to tell you anything very clever today. I'm going to tell you things that you already know, but sometimes it's useful to be reminded of the things that we already know. And maybe there'll be a couple of hints along the way that you might find helpful. A little bit about me. I'm Andy Salmon, and I'm rector of Sacred Trinity Church, which you can see behind me. We're in the Salford part of the city centre. So not far from Victoria Station and Marks and Spencer's. I am also Northwest Co-ordinator for HeartEdge, which I will tell you a little bit more about in a minute. And of course, I was a map officer for the diocese for 3.5 years or so, I think 4 years, whatever. And so that's why I think I've been asked to do this sort of strategy thing. So there's a nice image of Sacred Trinity Church on a busy Easter day, pre-pandemic. We've not had that many people in church since the pandemic, apart from for things like christenings, which we've got another christening tomorrow. But they're a lovely bunch. In terms of HeartEdge, I'm going to briefly tell you about HeartEdge. I'm not here in my HeartEdge role, but it would be a missed opportunity not to tell you something about HeartEdge, which was set up by St Martin in the Fields in London a few years ago. And Sacred Trinity was one of the founding members of various churches across the country and around the world that have joined HeartEdge. So HeartEdge is an international ecumenical movement that seeks to galvanize churches to be at the heart of their communities whilst being with those on the edge. So it's all about working with the people who are on the edges and finding what God is doing with us. We want to expand the imagination of a church captivated by scarcity. And really, it is about making the church fully alive. That's what HeartEdge is about. What we do is we seek to transform church and society through commerce, culture, compassion, and congregational life. See what we did there? There are 4 C's. Commerce, culture, compassion, and congregational life. And those are the kind of areas that we kind of see as being ones that we want the church to develop. Compassion, finding ways in which we can serve the community, often in partnership with others. Culture, engaging with people through art and music and the like. Finding new ways to engage with new people in that kind of way. Congregation is about, we need to develop our congregations as well. We need to find connections. So it's no good having a really good community project that doesn't connect with the congregation that we have in church. And very pertinent to today, commerce. We see that in the church, most churches do not have a congregation that is large enough to simply support the work of the church through their own giving. There needs to be other income as well. And we have resources. Most of us have some kind of building. Can we, the buildings cost us money to run, but can we also be raising funds, raising income through the way that we use our buildings? And sometimes that's about doing the other things as well. So sometimes it's about finding ways where we can do compassion, but it also raises income. So that's the title I've been given, Writing a Generosity and Thankfulness Strategy. I mean, Paul's given you some good resources already, and Jonathan. So there's some great resources out there. But I want to just give you some ideas. Have a vision. It's obvious, but so often we start with, oh no, we've got to repair the roof. Well, yes, the roof might need repairing, but why do we need a roof? Because it's no good just saying to people, please give us money to repair our roof. Well, why should we bother? Because in this building, in this space, what we are doing is, and we need the roof to make that happen. We need to have a bigger vision. So the classic thing in mission action planning we ask is where do you hope to be in 5 years' time? And then develop from that a strategy. That's the vision of where we want to be. How might we get there? Develop that strategy and then take action and review. It's all a very simple process, but that strategy needs to be broken down into component parts, if you like. What do you need to do to make that happen? And then review how you've got on. Finance will need to be part of this. You need to be able to say, whatever it is that you're doing, if part of your strategy is deliver leaflets to the estate, well, you need to print the leaflets. That's going to cost money. It just needs to be there. If your strategy is to remove all your pews and completely rework the building, it's a bit bigger cost, but it needs to be part of a bigger vision and strategy. I would encourage you, a map is still a useful tool. As mission communities, we're being asked to develop our mission action plans for the mission community, but that will involve a lower level, each church having their mission action plan, really. You don't have to use the diocesan stuff, but you can still find the template and an example mission action plan on the diocesan website. And it looks like this, the blank template looks like this, which many of you will have seen. And it asks, it asks a bit about your setting, what's happening for you, where you are, what your setting is, your vision and values, and then about some priorities that you've identified. We tend to think in terms of have a vision of where you want to be in 5 years' time, and then develop a plan that takes you 2 or 3 years from now, and then review the whole thing and develop a new 5-year thing. So they overlap, really. This is the page. The current activity plan is the thing that I guess most churches have just not done any of this over the past 2.5 years, because the pandemic just kiboshed all of what we were doing, and we found it very hard to think beyond kind of next week. We now need to be revisiting all of this, and if we've got something that we feel that we're aiming to do, then we need a plan. Those who fail to plan to fail. We need a plan, and we need to break it down into these sorts of areas. Give people tasks as well, so that John is dealing with that, and Jenny is dealing with that. And that's really important part of what we need to do. Good question there from Jill. I'll get to that in a bit. That's the back page. Daniel might be able to tell us about whether anybody ever reads emails sent to map@manchester.anglican.org, but work with your mission community leader and your area dean on these things, I think. So why do people give is a key question, and whether you're filling in a grant form or appealing to your wider community or asking for stewardship at church, it needs to be for a purpose. If it's for a grant, they're going to want you to say, what are you going to achieve with the money that we give you? but actually just stewardship at church. People want to know, why should I put £10 in the collection plate or on your digital device at the back of church? What is it for? And it all starts with vision. So we need to have vision. And I'm saying this to me as much as to you, because we all get into the kind of routines and, would you please give to church because we need your money? But we need to keep reminding ourselves that people want vision. And we need to share the vision that we have. We need to develop a vision if we haven't got one, then share it with people and then keep sharing it with people. Also, think creatively about partners. It shouldn't always be us that's doing it all on our own. We need to think creatively about who there might be, and they might be surprising people who might get involved with us. Review everything regularly. So have actions on your PCC agenda. Doesn't have to be a big bit of your PCC agenda, but maybe update a piece of paper that, says this was the plan, this is what we've achieved since last time. These are the people who are still working on stuff. And John will report back next time on what we're doing about this, because we haven't got very far with it. Have it on your PCC agenda. Review at standing committee or ministry team or whatever you have. Find a way that works for you in your setting. My view is try and keep the PCC a bit strategic, so they're thinking the bigger stuff rather than getting bogged down in the controls of the heating or something. Deal with that in a standing committee or something. I don't know. But at all your meetings, you want to be making sure that you're making progress on the things that you want to make progress on. Have constant review of where you're up to, and then a major review at probably 2 or 3 year intervals is the way that it works best. And when I say major review, it's good to involve a wider group of people. Don't just go, we're having a PCC away day and we're going to review our whole vision and strategy. If you're going to review your whole vision and strategy, involve everybody as much as you can, because you will find that there are people who are the quiet people who've not said very much and they're not on PCC, but they might have the really important bit of local knowledge that will lead you down a new route. So do involve a wider group. Don't be afraid that things change. Things will fail and new opportunities will arrive. And that's fine. If we don't have failures, it's probably because we're not being brave enough. We're not trying enough new things. So I think, failure is a good thing. It means that you've tried something. Learn from failure and then try something else. And obviously, I say obviously, but people do ask me at times, and people have asked me when I was MAP officer, can we start doing something if it's not on our map? Yes, if it's a spirit-given opportunity that feels right, that has arisen since you did your map. I'm not saying you don't listen to the spirit. Obviously you do. New opportunities will arise. But think about, okay, this opportunity has come. Right, let's not do that thing that we thought we might do, because we're actually going to do this. Because you need to keep things manageable and doable. So that's a reminder again about that current activity plan that you do. You need to get into detail, really, if you're going to succeed at getting things done. It's the equivalent of, you know, if I'm going to cook a meal for people, I need to plan. I need to know what I need for the meal, write a shopping list, go and get it. Remember to turn the oven on at the beginning. You know, like, it's not rocket science. This is basic. I mean, that might look scary to some people, but it's basic stuff. If we want to get something done, we need to plan it and work out how we're going to get there. I wanted to just say something about the HeartEdge ethos. I thought it was great that Jonathan was speaking exactly the HeartEdge language of God is a God of abundance. We do believe that if we believe in a God who is a God of abundance, if we believe in a God who is with us and alongside us in this world, then if God is calling us to things, there will be the resources to do those things. They might be from surprising places. So look around and be ready to be surprised. And this is just something that in our HeartEdge team we were talking about the other day. It's a former church in Ipswich that has become a live music venue. And the question we had was, I wonder whether they could have done that as a church, because a community interest company has set itself up to run this venue, this building, putting on live music and arts. Now, this is in the city centre of Ipswich. Is Ipswich? No, they're a town, aren't they? It's in the town centre of Ipswich. And sometimes it's about location, but they consider that this can make money. Well, could it have done as a church? I mean, there might be another church 50 yards away for all I know. I don't know Ipswich. But that's a question I would want to ask. You know, can we be really brave and creative with what we're doing? That's the end of my slides. So I'm going to stop share, and then I'm going to see that there are quite a lot of you there. So if you've got questions or things that you would like to discuss, do put them into the chat or raise your hand, and I'm quite happy that we have a little bit of discussion. Jill has asked, are parish mission action plans still a requirement, or have the mission community ones supplanted them? Other people would be able to answer that. I'm offering it to you as a tool. The diocese certainly wants to see mission community action plans. My feeling is that that needs to come from, I mean, it's different in different settings, but it would need to come from the more local as well. So, so in our mission community, certainly Sacred Trinity will want to have their own plan that feeds into and works with the other plans of the rest of our mission community. Matt, do you want to ask your question and unmute yourself and ask it? I don't know where you are.
Hi, Andy. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Matt.
Excellent. Excellent. Hiya. Yeah, I was just wondering what tips you've got for running a good map day. Is there a particular way of doing things, you know, sort of starting with the high level big stuff and drilling into detail one by one, or what's kind of worked to have a good day?
So I would say, first of all, start long before the day. I would say always engage people in conversation beforehand. So that means things like have a flip chart at the back of church that says, you know, what are the needs in our community, and people write on it. You do that for a couple of weeks. do have get someone to take photos of the area and put them on a table and give people post-it notes to write, you know, what with a question like, you know, what are the needs of the area, or who are what could we as a church be doing to serve our community, you know, but with images to provoke thought, you know, and conversation. Do a questionnaire with your congregation. You know, what are we good at doing? What are we not so good at doing? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? I mean, make it anonymous so they can say, I want less of those turgid hymns. You know, but and that's fine. You know, I want less of you, vicar, and more of the curate. Whatever, you know, but involve people in discussion, I would say. On the day, involve, like I say, get more people involved than the usual suspects. Start with vision. You know, what is the high level vision? You might have a good vision statement or something that you've been working to for a while. Well, review it. You know, do we feel happy about this? If you've not got a vision statement, you know, you need to start with what is our vision? And then, I mean, there are lots of tools that are available. And I mean, I guess I could give advice about, you know, different ways in which you can do things, but you know, there's things like little tricks like get people to, in pairs, list their top 3 priorities for what we as a church should be doing, and then get the 2 pairs to combine, so you've got 4, and then they discuss, so they knock it down to 3 still, and you know, and to get everybody involved. And kind of get a lot of ideas and then hone them down. The key thing is, you know, so there's lots of ways in which you can, you know, write lots of ideas down and then give people green dots to put next to them, the ones that they like, but they only have 5 green dots, so you can't do everything. I'm happy to, I mean, I'm not a map officer anymore, but I'm actually, your transformation officers could probably, deanery transformation officers could probably help with some of this stuff as well, or get some, you know, plan it with somebody else. It's always good to have somebody from outside the diocese, no, outside the parish, or the, you know, it might be somebody else from the mission community, or it might be somebody from a, you know, a neighbouring church, or it might be your area dean or your transformation officer who might help. I don't know. Does that help?
Yeah, that's those are great ideas. Thank you.
Anyone else got any questions? Because I can carry on talking about doing mission action planning days. I could carry on for the next 15 minutes, but you might have other questions. Lynn, you've put a question in the chat. Do you want to ask that, Lynn? Or? Oh, right. Sorry. Very practical question. Yeah. I just went to the...
Go on.
I just went to the top of the diocesan website and typed in the search button. There's a search button at the top, and I typed mission action planning search, and it came up.
Right. I tried that with mission action plan template, but then it gave me about 33 pages to look through.
If you scroll down a bit, Lynn, you'll get to a download section. That's the top one there.
Sorry?
If you scroll down the results, it's showing you web pages first, and then you've got downloads. And it's the first one of those downloads.
Web pages, right. So scroll down, downloads, parish accounts, receipt and payment spreadsheet. That's the first one.
All right, I've just done a search for mission action plan, and then the first one's my parish map template. Oh, I'll send you the link.
Thank you.
And yeah, probably don't put template in. That'll confuse it. Keep it to mission action plan, and you'll.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you. The link would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
Other questions or comments? I'll throw something at you because Ian was talking about major plans for the building, and just an experience talking to Islington Mill. So an area, it's in St Philip's parish, part of Salford, that's Islington. So not Islington in London and not New Islington next to Ancoats, but Islington in Salford. There's Islington Mill. It's a historic building, and it's become a base for artists. And they've been very successful at raising money. They've just had this week, the scaffolding is being lowered on the building because they've had some major repairs to the building. It is a historic building, but they had to wrestle with how can we raise the income that we need to spend on this building and do it in creative ways. And they found that although they're a space for artists, so people have art studios in there, they found that a lot of their artists were gay. And that was partly to do with who had bought the building in the first place and so on. And they've made that being queer a big part of their ethos and identity and their fundraising strategy. And they would say sometimes it's about really narrowing things down. Don't try and be all things to all people, but narrow things down and say, this is a vision that we have. And I found that quite challenging for us because we as a church try and be, we're serving the community, the whole of the community. But it's sometimes helpful to be able to say, this is the particular thing that we're offering. Other people are doing great things, but we are doing this. I just thought I'd share that. I'm prattling now. Come on, who else has got a question?
I can answer that if you like, because we focus on welcome and hospitality and trying to make the place a safe place and a comfortable place, which is hellishly difficult when you've got 100-year-old solid pine pews without any cushions. But you get the idea. Yeah. And I think it's quite significant that we're getting 30 and 40, 50 people into various sessions each week that have got nothing to do with worship. I think that's fantastic.
Right, yeah, brilliant.
It's a bit like having a unique selling point in business, isn't it, I suppose? A USP that we call it, yeah? Yeah,
it's exactly that, yes.
That's interesting, because it does all tend to be a bit broad, doesn't it, when you say the community? It's true, so maybe we should be focusing on that. I'll have to mention it to the vicar.
Yeah, a USP is a good thing, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, for us at Sacred Trinity, it's probably something about, that we're the first bit of Salford that you get to when you cross the river. And we are Salford. We're not Manchester, but we're in the city centre of Manchester, if you know what I mean. So we're sort of both of and not of, on the edge, but at the centre. Yeah. Ooh, there's all sorts of things to play with there.
Exactly.
Any other questions or thoughts? Anyone got any good tips that they might like to share with the rest of us? Come on, I've allowed plenty of time here for the Q&A. I'll whiz through that presentation. Now not.
I suppose that we've got a sort of major project on the go that's likely to cost several £100,000, if not more than that, at some stage in the dim and distant future, when we actually get round to sort of looking at costs and where the funds may or may not come from. In some senses, we're very lucky because we've got a Grade 2 listed building. So that helps when it comes to heritage funding, and we're also lucky because we've got excuse me, Heritage Action Zone funding already in the town centre in Tyldesley. We've got £1.5 million that was given to a community project, not a council-led project, a community project, to actually look at improving shop windows and things like that in the town. And that's been matched by funding from Wigan Council for another £1.5 million to improve one of our public buildings. There are only 3 public buildings left in Tyldesley: the old town hall, the old community library, and the parish church. And it seems sensible to a group of us that we actually look at improving all 3 buildings as part of a wider project than just a church project. I hope that sort of makes sense to people. So that's what we're about to do. So we've got the town hall at the east end of the town. We've got the library in the middle of the town by the town square, and we've got the church at the west end of the main street.
And that's great. Thank you, Ian, for sharing that. Because that's all about partnership as well. It's about talking.
Absolutely.
If you're wanting to, whatever your vision is, develop relationships with partners, and talk to people regularly. Invite your local councillors to come along to things. Invite your MP to come along to things.
We do Tuesday tea, so the local councillors come along for a free meal every week.
Well, there you go. Job's a good one. Yeah. Work with people so that when they are thinking, oh, we need somewhere to do this, oh, they're going to think of you because they already have a relationship with you. So do develop those relationships, work on them. Yeah. Any other questions that people have? Apparently you've got 6 more minutes. Yeah. Matt.
Hiya. So how do you get a strategy of thankfulness? That seems quite esoteric.
It does. Paul's more of the expert on this. So I was asked to do this session because I've done MAP. But what I would say is that so another session was on preaching on generosity, wasn't it? I mean, we decided a while ago we would sometimes do themed sermon series. So we are terribly Anglican, and we follow the lectionary, and we don't diverge from the lectionary very much. But at the moment we're doing Season of Creation, and the whole ecological climate change thing. But at other times, during ordinary time, during the long stretch of ordinary time, we've done things like had a preaching series on generosity that needs to start with the generosity of God, and then works through week by week to think about our response to God's generosity, generosity to the community, generosity to the church, whatever, and that's something that needs to happen at regular intervals. I think. I mean, one of the different churches are very different. So for some of you, you've probably got a pretty good idea who's going to turn up at church each week, and you've got a fairly regular core group. In our case, there are new people every week, and lots of regulars who aren't there lots of weeks. And so it all becomes a bit hit and miss. And somebody was asking the question of how do you get new people to give? And that's that's quite a challenge. That's a big challenge for us, because you don't want to be saying to somebody who's just arrived at church for the first time, oh, here's a standing order form. But you do need to say it at some point. And when is a good point to say it? So in terms of a generosity and thankfulness strategy, I don't know what the answer to that is. Talk to Paul. But I think generosity and thankfulness needs to be at the heart of what we are as a church. That's the key.
I was just going to talk for Paul on that. I know a little bit about what he's up to, obviously, but yeah, I think exactly what you've just said there, Andy. It's strategically, it's about embedding generosity and thankfulness into everything that you do, and not just about it being about generating funds, but thanking volunteers for what they do, being generous with our time and talents. It's all it's all stuff that we know already, but it's a lot easier to sort of bring those sort of subjects in, particularly with new people, rather than, like you said, the standing order form. It's about the ethos of the place, at which point, when it turns to finance, it's not such a shock. One would hope anyway. But yeah, Paul will give you plenty on that.
And one little, probably this is my final top tip, but one little tip for you is QR codes. So, lots of people during the pandemic, people got used to using QR codes. So we now, we use Linktree. So if you Google Linktree, but there are other ones available, but we use Linktree. And so Linktree will produce a QR code. We put it on our notice sheet and on posters. We put the QR code, and the QR code will take people to our Instagram, our YouTube, our website, and it also takes them to the donate page on our website. That's one of the things that they can find on our QR code, through our QR code. Whether it results in lots of I'm sure there aren't many people who go into a block of flats, see one of our posters, scan the QR code and donate 10 quid. I'm sure that doesn't happen, but it's it's there. And people can access it easily. So that's a key thing that we need to make sure of, is that people can access it. And it needs to be not just donate to church. It needs to be support what we're doing, support our ministry and outreach in this community or whatever, not just give to church. That brings, I think we're kind of at the end. So I'm going to stop recording